So recently, Notch confirmed that he's working on a spiritual successor to Minecraft, and as the creator of the world's most popular game, you might assume that people were excited, but actually huge swaths of people have come to hate the creator, and so why is that? Today I'm going to analyze his 3 big controversies and why people hate him for each of them. Rather than dogpiling or trying to defend him, I'm going to aim to explain why someone would say it, because it's not like he's going around tweeting that he wants to kill puppies. Instead, he says more innocuous things like it's okay to be white. So this is level 1 of his controversies, and it's a fairly normal thing to say. You might even say, why would someone dislike it? But the truth is, this is the standard opinion that everyone holds, and although it's not so cool when you tweet after it, it's the new black, I think that most people would say that's entirely fine. How could this possibly be a controversy? And the answer is because of one of our negative human biases, which is guilt by association. If 2 people say the same thing, even for very different reasons, we assume that they must share some values underneath it, and so according to the Anti-Defamation League, they think the phrase "it's okay to be white" was a slogan popularized in late 2017 as a trolling campaign by members of 4chan. They argued that they put the posters up so that liberals would take them down, and indeed that would prove that they did not think it was okay to be white. In other words, saying it's okay to be white is something you put out there to cause outrage amongst people that you think don't think it's okay to be white, and so this is something which is a very negative view to have, but it causes people on the other side to use guilt by association to say, yeah, well, if white supremacist groups are saying it's okay to be white, then you must be a white supremacist for saying it, and in other words, you can get in an entire fight that has nothing to do with the words you're saying, or indeed the words people attack you by, but people will assume if you find this funny, then you must assume that people are against it. Something similar happened on Heterosexual Pride Day. Back in 2017, Notch tweeted, if you're against the concept of a heterosexual Pride Day, you're a complete cunt and deserve to be shot. That's an intense way to tweet that one, huh? So this is the exact same thing happening in reverse. Pride is, of course, a day and or month, depending on where you live, where you celebrate being part of the rainbow, and so the idea of Heterosexual Pride Day is, what if we had a day to celebrate not being part of it? And some people say, well, that's silly, you don't need that, but ultimately, I think that you should say that any day of the year can be celebrated how you want to. I mean, we have a Caesar salad day, we can have a day for straight people too, right? However, when you say something like that publicly, people assume you have something different inside your head, something a little bit more hated, and this is the idea behind dog whistling, where you say something different that is meant to appeal to a certain group, like how a dog whistle appears to only a dog and humans can't hear it, but that everyone else is going to see anyway, and that is one of the big negative terms of online politics, but I also think it's like not something you can necessarily pin on him right now, unlike the second layer, which is perhaps the biggest reason he has for hatred right now. In fact, I think this Reddit post summarizes it best: least transphobic Minecraft creator. And so just a warning, this is the heaviest culture war issue of our time, and I know for some people it's very personal, so keep that in mind before we go into the tweet, because in direct response to someone who made art saying trans women are women, Notch said no, and he says that you are absolutely evil if you want to encourage delusion. What happened to not stigmatizing mental illness? There is no love in pretense, there is no you when you appease. Even saying that this is because of his sister, who thought she was dangerously fat and got dangerously thin. At no point was she, at no point did I hate her. Basically saying that he views, being trans not as a type of gender or something like that, but instead that he views it as a mental health condition, and one which we are appeasing rather than treating. This is something that attracts a lot of attention from people on the internet, and ultimately makes anyone who views this who is trans probably feel a little bit bad, but the deeper argument is about, yeah, gender dysphoria is kind of like a lot of other conditions we have, where your mind does not match your body, but in all of those cases, we work on fixing the mind. And so why is it that when it comes to gender dysphoria, we talk about how there's a huge history, and there is, to be fair, lots of cultures have third genders and this idea of transitioning genders, and have had for thousands of years, so why is it that when it comes to this, we decide to defer to that, rather than instead saying, okay, this is a condition, how about we solve it? Ultimately, we don't have a pill that magically makes gender dysphoria go away, and so is this the best solution for a group of people who disproportionately commit suicide, like literally to an alarming degree? It's one of the big problems, I think, that, unless you're really the most evil and uncaring person, you'd have to say, like, it is a bad thing that lots of people are killing themselves, and what can we do to help? But I think that's where people disagree. Some people say that, yeah, if you put in place some laws, like the very one Notch is against here, making it illegal to use the wrong pronouns, that maybe you'll help people out, but a lot of people would say no. Even though there are oppressed groups, it doesn't mean that you should change the entire structure of laws in the world just to make it work perfectly for them, especially because they believe there is some tyrannical problems in having people control language knowledge-like pronouns, and that's where you get into the whole world of internet wackiness that is why this is such a controversial take. I think the general take amongst younger people is like, yeah, let's have the most compassionate stance, and even though Notch is basically saying he wants exactly that, if we go back to the original controversial tweet here, you can see that he actually thinks that they deserve love. He's just also saying that, yeah, the best way to give love is not the same way as the rest of the internet does, which I guess you could probably describe as one of the biggest problems of basically all intergenerational political issues like this. Like, how do you best give people love? Is it by ignoring them? Is it by accepting them? Is it by, you know, going out of your way to change things for them? Well, ultimately it depends on the person, on the cause, and on the place, but that's too messy to have a political discussion about, and so let's just instead say that Notch decided to jump on one of the biggest political issues and not just have like a mild stance on it, but go all the way full whack in stance of one that is not very popular amongst people who would play Minecraft, and that's why a large number of Minecraft fans aren't a big fan of him as a creator. This is what might sound like the biggest of issues to wade into such a big issue in 2019. You might think, how can this not be the worst issue in the video? And to be fair, this is likely the worst issue for a large number of people. This is the reason why people make the joke that it's Hatsune Miku. Wait, Hatsune Mikune? Hatsune Miku. It's Hatsune Miku. It's Hatsune Miku who created Minecraft, and that is a great way to avoid the, what I guess you could kind of describe as the Harry Potter problem, where lots of people who love the Harry Potter universe don't love the author who created it. And at some point we can dive into the issue of like death of the author versus the idea that actually, no, the author does have deciding factor over how the universe works. That is a bigger problem for a different video, and I think even saying J.K. Rowling is going to cause this to be an even more controversial comment section. But let's seriously have a moment and say, look, there is going to be some people who look at this issue and say, but Toycat, you didn't explain it perfectly from my side, but that is, I think, where all three of these issues come from. Ultimately, Notch is just a guy who decided to tweet his opinions into a very public platform, and that public platform knows him for having a video game, and within that video game space, you're meant to have a certain set of opinions, and so when you instead tweet out saying things like this, you're gonna have people who dislike it. So this is the most controversial issue of all. Notch tweeted, Q is legit, don't trust the media. If you are not familiar with your 2019 internet conspiracies, then this is a pretty normal thing to say. I mean, Q is the drop key in Minecraft. How could you not think it's legit? The messages dropped by Q, who named himself that because he had US security clearance known as Q clearance, called his drops Q drops, which is literally the drop key in Minecraft. It seems a little silly looking back now, doesn't it? But the idea was that someone came out and said, I have high-level security approval, and here is some crazy stuff the US government doesn't want you to know about. Obviously, the fact that it started on 4chan is something you should be a little cautious of. However, this is not true for Notch, who believed in it very seriously. And so when someone said you'd have to be level 11 delusional to believe that Q is real, he says, but what do you mean by real? Someone is definitely posting under that name, and whoever it is has gotten people digging real deep to uncover the truth, and that part is legit. It doesn't matter who Q is or if he's real. And this is where the most exhausting part of this video comes in, because conspiracy theories are basically choosing to believe in emotions over facts, rather than facts which we can say are erroneous sometimes, and conspiracy theories which are correct sometimes. I would say though that facts are right more than 90% of the time, and conspiracy theories, like, fewer than 10% of them are right, however. And so when you look at that, it seems a little wild to believe in something that you read without any verification, but this is sometimes how very real information can get out there. And so is this what happened here? I mean, almost certainly no. Even Notch is saying, yeah, the Q part probably isn't right, but isn't it getting people to ask interesting questions? And this is the big problem. This is the most dangerous thing that you can do, especially as a person with millions of people following you, to say to people, yeah, it doesn't matter if you have any factual basis for your claims, as long as you get people looking in the right direction, then that is entirely fine. To say publicly in a piece of information that you shared on the internet that it doesn't matter what information or facts or knowledge you have to back up what you have to say, but instead you can just kind of say it if you feel it's correct, is very, very dangerous. This is something we're dealing with so much more in the modern age, where artificially generated stories and, and indeed foreign interference with all sorts of places trying to make news websites so you'll believe something that very much isn't true. This is dangerous. If people actually look to the world and try to find people that they can trust and verify information from, then we'll get a world where everyone's informed. But if we say, no, don't look, don't check to see if something's right, see if it feels right, and then you can go based on that and look into the real information, this is the most dangerous thing he's done, and there is a large number of people who dislike him for it, although the interesting thing from this entire video is how it's substantially fewer than the people who hate him for the first 2 points. I think that this is a dangerous thing about internet discourse right now, where if you are to say dangerously outlandish things, people can write them off, but if you oppose them in an argument, we create these figures inside our head where somehow it is worse to be on the other side of an issue to you, let's say on the okay to be white thing, than it is to actually actively be sharing very dangerous conspiracy theories and to be saying don't trust the media. I wouldn't describe myself as a big fan of mainstream media or anything, but I would say that unless you have something better to represent it instead, you shouldn't say not to trust it. Saying you should trust a conspiracy theory instead is substantially more dangerous than basically anything else he said here, and that's why it's the third big reason that people hate him. However, I think now sharing all of this with you, it's important to do something the media won't do, which is to actually present the nuance of like, okay, this is someone who is, now you've actually seen the real opinions, you've seen the real things that he said. I think it's really important now more than ever to not just take at face value, oh, so he's a bad person, or for some reason if you agree with everything he says, oh, he's a great person, I actually really like it, but instead to understand that people are incredibly nuanced. The world loves to have heroes and villains. Especially with Marvel movies, we like to have someone who is the big bad and someone who's going to take down the big bad, but the actual world is filled with really great people who did really bad things. I think you could look into like Gandhi for an example of that, or you could look into the opposite. Every single person in prison right now, even those who have committed murders and severe violence, probably have done some really nice things in their life, because no human is all good or all bad, and when we pretend that they are, the moment someone finds out something really good about some villain, they start to latch onto maybe that person wasn't so bad and looking into it really awfully in a way that I think is a problem for the world. So if you finish this video and you think Notch is the worst human being on planet Earth or the best, I think you should instead come away from it and say, actually, he's a very interesting person who sold Microsoft, then proceeded to have a few hundred million, very, very high number, clearly apparently became a billionaire at some point since then, and is now deciding to make a Minecraft 2 for money reasons. Is that a normal thing for a billionaire to do? Why would he need to get money so bad? Asking the more interesting questions about what's going on inside someone's heads can help you understand yourself and the world and the human condition much better than saying, oh, he's on the other side of this issue to me, and I do not like people who are on the other side of this issue because they basically kill people with their opinions. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I think the real takeaway I have is whenever you look into Notch, he is one of the most fascinating human beings, and I don't know what's going to come next in not even a good way. I mean, look at this tweet. Why would he tweet that? Anyway, have a good day, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're a member, there's a brand new video available for you right now. Go check it out. It's linked in the description. You can also look at it if you're not a member, but I don't know what happens. I think you just get the thumbnail. Whatever, you can click the link down below to see a brand new video that probably wasn't in your subscription feed. Anyway, thank you and goodbye.